Gonna start recording. Hi, Melanie. So,
Hi,
guys,
Kristy.
this is our very first interview with one of the families that I've photographed. So, my name is Kristy Wolfe. I am a storytelling photographer, an educator, and a speaker, and I'm also a medical mom based in Canmore, Alberta. And I have been photographing Melanie and her daughter Ella probably for like about the last 6 months. And so
Mhm.
today we have Melanie with us. And first of all, I'm just going to get Melanie to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Melanie. I have a daughter named Ella, and I'm married, and I also have a son who's older than Ella named Connor. So, yeah, there's a family of four, and Ella has some special needs, and that's how I met Kristy.
So we moved to Canmore in September, and Melanie was one of the first people I came across. I think I joined a Facebook group for Bow Valley parents of children of Alberta's Children's Hospital, something like that. And Melanie kind of started giving tips, and then we connected over coffee one day, and we've just become friends. And it's been a really good way to settle into a new place. So Melanie, first of all, thank you, because that's been a huge part of my life, is finding new people, and especially people who know some of what goes into being a special needs parent. Like, we definitely, our kids are very different, but there are a lot of things as a caregiver that are similar. And so, yeah, we started doing a project together just to photograph Melanie and Ella's relationship, kind of through community, through at home, out at appointments, and it was part of a project I was doing called 21 Weeks. So, Melanie, first, will you tell us a bit about Ella so people kind of get an idea of who she is?
Okay, so Ella is 6. When Kristy met her, she was 5, and it's been about a 3-year journey between Ella being a typically developing child to ending up with a medical diagnosis. So she has something called Rett syndrome, which is a genetic mutation that affects her mostly neurologically, that she was born with, but we didn't realize it until she was 2.5, almost 3, and she went through a big plateau and then regression phase with her development, including a loss of the words that she did have. So she's nonverbal and uses a speech device. So it's been a pretty long journey, but it's been great to connect with other people like Kristy. For myself, I've been at home with Ella pretty much the whole time, so really involved with all of her therapy and preschool and school things as well, and all of her medical appointments. So she has a team of probably 25 or so people that she would see in the year, between 4 different therapists, an aide, the help that she gets at school because she needs one-to-one help with an aide at school. She just finished kindergarten. And then her medical team that she has as well. So we do a lot of different things in the community, and it's been a real learning experience for me, not knowing a ton about the medical side of things, to getting involved with that and learning what it takes to kind of really be an advocate for your child and be able to learn, what they need to be able to help them the best that you can. Each year, I feel like I'm probably every 6 months kind of learning a lot of new skills and putting those to use to help Ella for sure. And I really like to connect with people and be involved with the community. And so that for me has really helped me kind of deal with the acceptance of having a child with a medical diagnosis and go through the grieving process that I went through. In learning that life's going to be a lot different for Ella. We don't know if she'll ever be able to talk. I think it's probably unlikely that she will be able to, in full sentences, unless they are actually looking for a cure for Rett syndrome. So if that is something that happens, and there's a real potential there. She has a lot of different developmental delays and some fine motor, different things with her hands we work on as well. But overall, she's just a happy kid who loves to connect with other people. And, we have a great life, and her big brother is really helpful with her as well. So when I met Kristy, I was kind of little bit through the grief stage and starting to connect with other people, and whether she has I don't know as many people with Rett syndrome. It's a lot more rare. It is a rare disease, so there's no one in our community with it. But just being able to connect with other moms or parents who have a child who's nonverbal and uses a speech device, or, understand what it's like to go to the children's hospital for a new appointment, the different therapies we need to go through, the pages of notes you get from the school when you're working on adapting their education, things like that. My friends are all awesome, but who have typical kids, but to have some community that you can talk to and ask questions like, has anyone ever done this before and what do I do?
Yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, I have a meeting with the government agency and I'm a bit nervous. Can you help me prepare? Or I'm going to this appointment and I don't know what to expect. So that's all being amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and even just the venting part of it, like after the fact, I just need to get this off my chest and I need to talk to somebody about it who can relate to what I'm talking about. Because again, I've mentioned it before, but we don't have the same journey, but we have a lot of similarities that we can talk about. And we've got a group of moms here in the Bow Valley that we can go out for coffee with and have those kind of conversations. But I'm lucky because Melanie's also introduced me to a wider community. Some of her friends in Ontario have started different organizations. Chronically Simple is one that we've connected with together. And then can you tell people a little bit about your friend Elisa?
Oh, sure. So Elisa and I have known each other since we were 14, and we went through high school together and we were best buds, and we've always remained close. And she has this awesome son named Andy, who's pretty much a teenager now, who has autism and uses a speech device as well. So it was kind of ironic when I, called her a few years ago and said, Elisa, I'm going to this doctor's appointment tomorrow, and I'm not sure what the doctor's going to tell me, and here's what's going on with Ella. She'd already been through so much more in her journey, and she has been just a godsend helping me out. We talk probably weekly on that, and to have her sort of be that voice in my ear or someone I can call, and also to say, well, here's what may happen at your meeting, and here's what I would recommend to help prepare you for that. Because, I think parents might not realize when, we've had meetings where there might be like 10 or 12 professionals sitting around a table, and you're having to tell them about your child and what extra help they need in the classroom or what extra help they need at home before a panel, because you need extra therapy support and you're looking for a contract and things like that. So she's a really calm person who's been there before and is a really amazing advocate for her son. And she also has a second child, so that's been neat to have Connor, my son, connect when we went to visit her last year in Ontario as well.
Yeah.
So she has started doing some coaching with people in Ontario as well. She's always done that for me, so it was a great fit. She started doing that.
And her podcast is really, like, I've listened to quite a few of them now, and her podcast, it talks to different professionals, it talks to parents with special needs kids, and they just, again, a conversation about what it's like and what services are out there that you can tap into. And I think that's a really awesome thing. Now, Melanie, I want you to talk a little bit about what it's like to have photos taken, because, okay, so a little bit of backstory is that my son Kane had heart surgery in September, and we had a photographer with us, and that's when it really clicked for me how important it was for me as the caregiver and like the medical mom and the photographer to be in the pictures as well. And so I really started thinking about that more, and I threw this idea out to Melanie that maybe I could photograph her and Ella doing different things, and it turned into a bigger project. But can you share with people a little bit about what it's like to have photos taken where somebody like me as a documentary or storytelling photographer comes with you? We've done photos at your home. We've tried at school before COVID. We did an appointment in Edmonton. And then after COVID hit, we've done some stuff outside, but it wasn't quite what we were thinking. But just talk about what that experience is like having a photographer there.
It's been awesome. I always love photography and I love taking pictures of my kids, but I find I personally have not been doing it enough, and I'm not usually in the pictures. So when Kristy approached me at first, I was like, oh, okay, I have to think about this. And my husband and son are not as extroverted as I am. So they don't really want to share everything all the time, you know, and I get that. So we talked about that as well. What I really love is sort of, you know, right from the beginning, I think because you and I had clicked and Ella had clicked with you, it just felt like we were kind of hanging out as well while you were taking the photos, and that was really helpful. Ella could see that I trusted you, so she was fine. She's been fine with having you photograph us as well, which was really key for me too, I think.
Yeah.
I think you came along at like the right time with that question, because I had just started kind of in the previous 6 months to really share our journey more with an Instagram account that I have called Rocky Mountain Rent Mama. And I have people approaching me who are sort of acquaintances or friends and saying how much they really liked some of the things that I've been sharing. So it's had worked really well to get more photos with that and feel like I'm more part of the journey. So I think one of the big things has been, you know, one of the tags we've been using is "You're here for a reason," and I was there too. So seeing myself in some of those pictures, Ella has really been using them as well. So her behavior strategist has talked about the importance of Ella being able to see herself doing certain things. So when we've had medical appointments that you come to, a couple of them, or if it's been something at school that, you know, if something maybe she wasn't sure about, Ella and I can look back at some of the pictures that Kristy's taken, and she sees herself in that, getting her x-ray or walking down the hall somewhere in the hospital. And it's like, oh, so I can use those pictures actually as part of our therapy when I'm making social stories for her on her speech device too, which is sort of like a double bonus, really.
Yeah, and that one that we did just recently for medical play, Ella was going in for an EEG, and so the child life specialist at the Alberta Children's Hospital had given Melanie some medical equipment to try out with Ella. So we were at another friend's house who also has a daughter who does a number of EEGs, and just getting to do, it was just nothing was set up. We just kind of played around, let the kids play with it, and just took some pictures as it was going. And I was really happy about those pictures. Like,
yeah,
it
they were
really
fantastic.
showed. Yeah.
And great example, because then I made a social story for her with this app that I have with some of the pictures from Child Life and then some of the pictures that you had taken. And it's like, oh, so Ella can see, I've done this before. I've had these wires on my head and that felt okay with me. So I feel like I could do it again. And in fact, even when I went to her appointment, the tech and the child life specialist who came to help us were like, what is this? I need that social story. That's amazing. And the guy said, did you make that? To the specialist, she said, no, but those are some of my pictures, but I want that.
Nice. That's
So,
perfect.
yeah, that was really cool. So I think that's one part of it. But I think for myself, it's, you know, years from now, when I look back on this journey, oh, hi.
Here's Ella. Hi, Ella.
Ella. We're talking to Kristy.
See ya.
Do you want some more to drink? Okay, here, I'll open it for you. You want more?
I love that Ella popped in, because we were talking about just before we started this. I haven't recorded a Zoom before, so Melanie and I were just joking about this a little bit, but like my kids are in the background. I'm hoping to block them out with these headphones so you guys won't hear them, but that's a fact of life right now. It's summer, first of all, but we've been home with our kids for 5 months. Can you believe it? 5 months.
It's long. The journey is long.
I love them, but oh my goodness. Yeah. But this is every day right now, and we don't know what's going to be happening in September. We have an idea, but it's been an extraordinary year, I have to say. So
it has. I don't want to lose my thought of what you were asking me. So some of the other things that I really have loved about the photos is, you know, years from now, I'll be able to look back and remember those moments that at the beginning were really, really hard to deal with. But now, you know, going to doctor's appointments like an EEG where you're not sure what the outcome is going to be. But now it is just part of our life. And to have those photos is really special to me, to just sort of have that as a memory, I guess. Yeah. And also because this has been my job really as a stay-at-home mom, but really as Ella's caregiver and sort of medical manager, if you will. And to have me in some of the photos with her and the memory and being able to look back at those is really great, I think, as well. So it's meant a lot to me, and I think maybe more because I really love photography, maybe
Yeah.
more than the average person. And I don't think I knew I needed the pictures as much as I did until I started to see them. And then I was like, oh, these are great. And like, I want more of these. And I really love your style of photography. I love that kind of some of the close-up shots or the documentary or the little moments of like, oh, there's a shot of me with all that paperwork.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. And just like a realistic view of it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel the same way. Like, I've been going through the photos from Kane's surgery, and when I first got them, I looked at them and like went through them a lot and started kind of putting them together because I plan to do a book out of them, like a photo book for our own family. And so that's like another piece. So I think about the idea of the photos happen and I'm in there and I'm so happy to have, like, when Roz of Slice of Love Photography was with us, I was so excited to have her there. Like, that really helped me through our heart surgery. And then getting to see the pictures a while later was a really important next piece. And like, we were in tears and we were talking about, it's like a therapy session as we were going through the photos. And then there's been different times where I've spent some time going through the photos and like kind of compiling them the way I wanted to. And I'll do it for a while. Sometimes I finish a project with it, and sometimes it's just put away and brought out again later. And so each time, like, it's never easy. That stuff is never easy, but it helps me process it just a little bit more. And the way
Yeah.
you have been writing about it with your Instagram account and sharing like all the pieces of what that picture makes you feel, I think is a huge part. Like, I hope you're keeping that somewhere.
Need to.
Well, you also, the really good thing about Instagram is when you post all those posts, you can go back and copy and paste them into a book down the road.
Yes,
So it
I
doesn't
need
have
to do
to
that.
be something you do right now. It's there and you can grab it. And so I think
Yeah.
that's a big part too.
I think like one of my favorite things that we did was the fact that you came all the way to Edmonton with us. And so annually we get to take Ella to this clinic, and it's a Rett syndrome clinic. So that for us is about a 4-hour drive, depending on the roads in the winter. And so we've gone twice now. And the first time that we went, it had been like a year and a bit since, well, a full year since we first went to the doctor and knew that something was not quite right with what was going on with her development. So if you imagine then a full year later actually seeing the specialist that knew a lot more about her syndrome, like, it was so emotional for me at the end of the day. Both times I've cried by the end of the day. So now we've gone twice, and every year we get to go when there's a spot for us. It's only held like every 3 months, I think, and there's only 5 individuals for the day. You see all these different specialists, and they just know so much more about Rett syndrome than our local community, and our doctors are amazing. They just don't specialize in that. So to have Kristy come to that second clinic, and one, because my husband was sick and couldn't come even like for the drive or anything that day. So to have you there for me was actually like a big support as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then to have you photographing everything and looking back and then sharing some of those photos, and people like my sister saying, wow, like they kind of forget or just don't know. You've never experienced anything like that, realizing what's entailed in like a 7-hour day for a 5-year-old of seeing all of these specialists, right? Let alone the parents, and to then see some of the photos, seeing some of them of my face and being like, oh, I remember that moment.
Yeah.
I remember that moment that she, why we were talking about that. That was the moment they were talking about her tiptoe walking, and if down the road maybe she would need casts on her legs to sort that out. And I remember being worried about that, and you can see the worry on my face,
Yeah. Yeah.
or her getting her x-ray, and you can see the mom who's concerned. So I find, even from me looking at it from like an outsider's point of view, really special. And I think that it's really important. I've really started to understand now why it's important to share a medical journey, or whatever it is we're sort of going through here, because I feel like our friends and family are understanding better, but it makes people even more empathetic to other people who they don't know about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've shared some of them with some of her caregivers, like, oh wow, that's what happens there. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
There's
wow,
so much. Yeah.
look at all those people, or like, oh, that's what this room looks like, or okay. So to have those for me, as I've gone back, and I want to go through them again soon actually, but looking at some of those photos and then you know, it might not be until after the moment too that sometimes they realize like, oh, Ellen looked really scared right then. Like, I didn't realize it because there was so much other stuff going on and she
Yeah.
was yelling and that was frustrating me. But actually, I think she was really scared and that's probably what happened, you know? So I
Yeah.
think that's an important piece too.
And yeah, those there's so many things that I totally resonate with what you said about that.
Mm-hmm.
But also just that idea that there were so many people in that room. There were so many adults working for Ella in that room. And that
Yeah.
was something I hadn't seen before, because we don't have, like, our clinics are all separate. And I think likely most people in medical situations don't have that kind of, like, they had, who was there? A developmental pediatrician and physio.
And an OT, a
Yep.
podiatrist. We had a neuro sort of consult at the same time. There was a couple of students who was there. There was a nurse practitioner. Yeah, so it's a large group of people that are coming in to see us.
Yeah.
And the previous year too, we also saw a speech language pathologist and a social worker as well. So it kind of depends what your needs are at that time. And they give us this amazing report afterwards as well. There's maybe 5, I think, rec clinics in Canada. They're about to make another one, and the community of people involved in it, like, are just incredible.
Yeah.
So I feel really special once I got into that clinic. It took about 2 hours even just to do an intake call, and the nurse is just amazing. And now we've got this connection if we need to even just have a phone call, which we have a few times for different things as well, which is really helpful. But yes, to have all those people there at the end of the day, one, it's free. Like, we drive up there and we get some funding for gas and things like that too. So we pay a little bit to get there, but the whole day of what they provide, we don't pay anything for. And
Yeah.
it's all covered under our healthcare, and it's invaluable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I mean, even the fact that they put on lunch for you guys, the Rett syndrome of
Yeah.
Alberta, right?
Yes.
And so connecting with other families that have children with Rett syndrome is a huge piece of it. Yeah, I'm so glad I was able to go up there with you and see that. I do remember there was one time during that day where you were getting emotional and you looked at me. I don't know if you remember this, and you were like, I just want you to stop taking pictures right now. And, like, perfect. I don't need to be doing everything. I feel like I'm pretty unobtrusive during those meetings, but I also know that I'm an extra person there. And so that's always kind of one of the things in the back of my mind as I'm telling other people's stories, that I'm not a participant in it. If there is a time where it's obvious that this is not the time to be taking pictures, I felt like it was pretty easy for you to tell me and just give me a
Mm-hmm.
heads up. And then we just took a break for a little bit.
It totally was. And we had talked about that ahead of time too. Like, if there's ever time you don't want that. And I just remember we were talking about, I was kind of like, no, that's okay. We don't need photos right now. And you just right away put your camera down. And also you were really great with a couple of the other specialists in the room who said they didn't really want to be in the photo as well. And you really, like, right from the get-go, respected that. And they're not in any of the photos. And
Yeah, because that's one of the hardest things about doing medical photography. I'm a bit of a person that asks for forgiveness later. But I always talk to the medical staff as they come in and just let them know what I'm doing. Even with our own story, I bring my camera to most of our appointments, which I think you're starting to do more now too. But I always talk to medical staff and just say, hey, I'm going to be taking pictures. They might end up on my blog. Are you comfortable with that? And if people show any sign of, like, oh, like that kind of, like,
mm.
on the fence, then I don't include their face for sure. Like, I might get hands in there, but I am really conscious of that's a
Mm.
privacy thing too.
Yeah,
And
that is another thing that I have started to bring my camera to more places. And I sometimes just have to weigh it up with, like, okay, I've got Ella's diaper bag and her speech device and whatever we need for the day. And can I carry this too? And we had this child life appointment at the hospital. And for those that don't know, they're an organization that help with preparation before you have, like, a surgery or some sort of appointment at I'm sure many hospitals. I know there's one, at least in Ontario, so the Children's Hospital in Alberta does it, and they're this phenomenal team of people. So we went in for a couple hours and got to play with the medical equipment, and Ella got to see it. And we got to ask questions after. And in fact, our behavior strategist came with us. So that was super helpful.
Amazing.
So I
Yeah.
was like, I think I'll bring my camera. And then I got some great shots. And then we used those pictures with Ella to make her social story and to look. And that helped a ton, I think, when she had her dental surgery at the hospital, because she was able to be like, oh, the fish hallway. Yeah, I remember that, looking at the picture, because we talked about it a bunch of times. So yeah, I've been trying to do that a little bit more if I can as well. And it's nice to have those.
I love it, because one of the things, so my background is as a teacher, and so I had a grade 1 class, and a number of kids in my class had speech devices, and so that's where I really started connecting. Like, I'd always used some photography in my class, but that's really when I started realizing how powerful it could be with grade 1 kids to be able to see themselves. And we used it even for writing and talking about like what's happening in the picture to keep going with it. So that might be something down the road for you and Ella, with her speech device. So showing a picture and then talking about it on her speech device and doing it that way. Just other things.
Yeah, we talked about it a few times too in regards to her feelings, because she's gotten really good at expressing her feelings with her talker. And so, you know, I showed her a picture, and I expected one answer, and she told me something else when she saw the picture, which was like, oh, you were feeling scared then instead of this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And yeah, Kane has started we've been talking a lot about pictures again. We kind of took a hiatus, but he's been talking about pictures again, and it's just, you get a totally different perspective when they talk through pictures. Has Connor ever looked at any of those?
He's looked at some of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not really interested in taking or in as many. He kind of lets us do some of them, but he definitely has looked at them. And even leading up to, I think it was her EEG appointment, actually, then he was like, oh, that's what's going to happen. Okay. And, you know, realizing, you know, he's only 8. So him being able to see some of the, or after the fact of, say, the Glenrose appointment, like, oh, wow, Ella, you went in that big x-ray machine? Yeah, that does look a little bit scary, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just normalizing it for the sibling. And I think that's a piece that will come more and more, because like for us, Kane's 7 and Mav's 5, but I don't show them a lot. Like, they haven't seen the surgery pictures. That's something for me. It's not for them at this stage of the game, and maybe down the road. But even when we were trying to decide if Maverick would come see Kane in the hospital, we started with like a picture of Kane in his hospital bed, and I sent it to my mom who was watching Maverick. And then we did a video of Kane so that Maverick could see, so that we could decide if it was a good thing for him to come in. But being able to use those images, regardless of the sibling's age, I think is a big opportunity for just teaching and learning. But also the normalizing side of things, because that's always been a big piece of it for me. I wanted other people to see what this really looks like. Like, often with medicine, you'll have like hand-drawn characters, or you'll have very obviously staged situations, and I wanted people to see a little bit more of like the authentic medical experience. Like, this is what it looks like. And even if I don't have a photographer there, or if I'm not there when you're there, there's ways to get yourself into the story, either using a self-timer or a remote that I've like played with a little bit, because again, hospital appointments can sometimes be long, and sometimes kids are distracted enough that you can do your own thing a little bit and work through it. But okay, so just, we've kind of touched on this, but has having your photograph taken during some of this medical stuff, has that impacted your medical experience, do you think?
Yes, I would say that it has. I think that, you know, it's funny how seeing yourself in some of the photos, you realize more. Like, I know obviously I'm an integral part, and really with Ella, I'm the one who's driving everything in terms of the organizing and the bringing her places and all that kind of stuff, because my husband works full time. So I know all of that, but seeing myself in the pictures, you sort of realize more like how much she needs me, or how much of a part I play into that. So I think there's, you know, more value that kind of comes from that as well, which is yeah, really special, I guess. And then using some of those pictures with some of my writing, and then that combination, I find, has been able to have more people approach me to tell me what they've appreciated about it, or the fact that it made them think about certain things they hadn't thought about, or, you know, I had no idea it would be like that, or like, thank you for sharing your story about that. And you know, I guess my hope is we live in a really really awesome little town, and I feel like everyone's really understanding here. We haven't had, personally, like I haven't had an experience with Ella that's been, super awkward or hurtful, but, with having a nonverbal child, sometimes like today, she was screaming at me a lot because she was really upset about something. And, I'm sure there's places where you may get a parent saying something to you about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if telling our story a little bit through words and through photos can help other people appreciate that or become more empathetic, then it would help them if they're in that situation with someone else, just to be like, oh, well, maybe this kid's going through this, or, them telling their a lot of my friends have talked, they'll talk to their kids about some of the appointments that we've had, and then it prompts them to ask more questions, or they actually have some photos to look at thanks to your photos. I'm like, oh, that's what she had to do, and that's why she had to stay up until midnight and wake up at 4 a.m. She was going to that appointment, and she had all those things in her head. Oh my goodness. Okay. And I think it helps them understand Ella a little bit better. But maybe a kid they don't know who they're about to be in class with next year, who also has some differences that they didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I also see this as an opportunity down the road, like going into one of her classes, to share a little bit of information. Like when Kane came back from his heart surgery, I didn't bring pictures, but I went in and told them a little bit about why Kane had been away and how, like, he was on chest precautions. So they had to be careful of playing. He needed to be by himself. He couldn't be like manhandled anymore,
Yeah.
the way kids play. And so those pictures could be another step in helping other kids understand in their class. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys? I know I can see that people are coming in, and it's dinner time, and I know Gavin's
That's
working.
okay. Well, it's tricky with coronavirus.
Yep.
Each day is a new adventure. We don't really know what's next. I'm going to be working part-time in the fall, so I'm really excited about that. Hi, Connor. And so I'm hoping Ella is full-time in school,
Yep.
but I'm also hoping, so that, I mean, right now it's the plan is to really enjoy the summer and then start getting back into working part-time and then eventually full-time, and just seeing how that sort of plays out. There's different things to consider, because if she's ever in after-school care, then she needs a one-to-one aide with her due to safety and different things like that. So I don't necessarily have to hire that person. Sometimes it can come through the organization that you're with, but it's not as simple as sort of signing them up and putting them on the wait list, right?
Yep.
And I realize I've been home with her so much, like I definitely have some issues sometimes sort of trusting a new person. That takes a lot for me, and to be able to deal with the extra help that she needs in her speech device, and she likes to run off. Big thing lately. So
Uh-oh.
yeah. So all of that. So yeah, for us, it's just, we really, I think, kind of try to live kind of week by week and stuff, and just enjoy the family and where we live and things as well, because we know things can change so quickly, right? So
Yeah. And tomorrow we are going to meet, and I get to take photos of Ella on her adaptive bike.
yes,
So that's yes.
I think that will be fun.
Assuming it's not too hot. It was pretty hot today.
It was hot, yeah, but I think is it hot today, Ella? There's Kristy. Did you want to say hi again?
Ella, we can say bye now. You can steal your mom back.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I wanted to add was when we were talking about photos and being able to share them, and what that looks like in the medical community as well, is with the organization Chronically Simple, using some of our photos that you had taken. That just blew me away, and I just love it. It's so cool for me to see them posting that they're doing like a webinar or something with one of their new products for people to be able to help track and monitor things for their child, which I use, and see a picture of my hands holding paperwork with the doctors in the background, and being like, yes, like this is a real person and this really happened. It's not just like a stock photo from somewhere. And that's something I hadn't really thought of that much until you brought that up. So,
and it's really neat. I like the way Chronically Simple they wanted to be able to use our words too. So they're sharing on their app, and on Instagram and on Facebook, like, here's an update from Kristy Wolfe. Here's an update from Rocky Mountain Rett Mama. And so they're sharing our stories through our words, but just kind of giving people a glimpse, because it's not all about pediatrics for their programming.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it gives people kind of different perspectives. They've got a number of different stories, and they tell Kristy Dickinson's story as well,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple other people that work in that organization. And I think that it's a really good way to get stories out there, because I think that's a piece that's beginning to come a little bit more. But I do still think there's work for involving lived experience, but also the imagery that goes along with that.
Yeah. And I think I think I had started a bit on that. And then your photography and the project that we did together just has sort of like pushed me into like, yes, I need to do this and I need
Yeah.
to share our story. And, hi, Ella. I'll just be a minute, okay? So yeah, I thank you for that. It's been
Yeah.
awesome.
No, it has been awesome. So I'm going to include your Instagram handle. I'll put a couple of the hashtags that we've been using for Rett syndrome specifically. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. But thank you for doing this.
Hi. Yeah. Okay.